Hey everybody, welcome to day 3. Today it's another lower body day, but we're going to cover the hip hinge movement. So we'll use a deadlift to demonstrate the hip hinge. I'll also do the deadlift using other objects, dumbbells, and a plate, so you guys can kind of decide what you want to do if you're back at home, what object around the house you want to pick up and practice your hip hinge with. So we'll use a deadlift today to demonstrate what this movement looks like. We'll start it with the ground. Your stance for your deadlift or your hip hinge is going to be a little bit more narrower than your squat stance would be. Really good visual I like to use is that you're getting ready to do a vertical jump or jump up as high as you possibly can, right? So when you step into that jump, you're typically more narrow, you're a little bit athletic, right? We're in those hips, we're at bent knees, we're in a good position to be reactive. So for your stance, right, mine's going to be a little bit more narrow, and I'm also going to create that tension into the ground with my feet, just like we did with the squat. So I'm pretending that the floor beneath me is like carpet, and I'm trying to tear that carpet apart with my feet. So we should feel that tension there. When I approach the bar, or when I pick up the hip hinge or whatever that movement is, I want to make sure that that weight is close to my person. Reason being, that improves the line of pull. If some of you have seen videos of deadlifters, cleans, whatever, right, the farther away this bar gets from my body, the more difficult it is to use the right tension, the right muscle groups to pick that up, just because I'm so spread out and there's no mechanical advantage there for the muscles to use. So we want to make sure that everything we do when we're in a hip hinge is nice and tight to our body, okay? The difference between a hip hinge and a squat is basically how we get to that end range of motion, right? The squat is we're kind of going up and down. The hip hinge is we're going to go up and down, but we're going to go up and down by going back with our hips. So what that looks like is I'm going to unlock my knees, right? I'm going to get into the kind of that jumping stance. I'm going to keep my chest up, so if I have a mirror at home, I can see the logo in my shirt. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push those hips back and keep that chest up, right, until those hamstrings are on stretch. So that's what the hip hinge looks like, just kind of standing up. Push the hips back toward the wall. So it's kind of like I'm elongating that spine, right? Chest is up, unlock the hips, push the hips back toward that wall that might be behind me, and then come right back up again. So when I go to grab a deadlift off the floor or a heavy object off the floor, it's the exact same thing. I get in my jumping stance, I experience that tension in the ground with my feet, right? And to get this bar off the ground, I just unlock my knees and I push those hips back while keeping my chest up until I reach the bar. From this position here, I just go ahead and stand up, lock out the movement, and to deliver the bar back down to the ground, I do the same thing, right? Hips go, push back toward the floor, knees unlock, right back down again. Okay, so that's just a regular deadlift. If you're using dumbbells or something else at home, same way, right? So you can start here. You can start with the dumbbells at the top of the movement. Unlock the knees, push the hips back, keep the chest up. Bring the weights down to about mid-shin and right back up again. So if you go a little higher up to the knee, that's totally fine too. We just want to make sure that that hinge looks appropriate. Here's what it looks like from the side view. There. And if you're using just a random backpack full of textbooks or whatever at home, right, you can just give that thing a hug and do the same movement. Okay? These are actually called good mornings. We'll do these a little bit later in class. But a deadlift is typically where you're picking the weight up off of the floor in that pattern. A good morning is where you have weight on your back or in front of you and you're doing a hip hinge that way. Okay, so that's the deadlift. That's the first thing that we'll cover today. Whatever you're using, make sure that we're lifting it close to our person, like I said, and just do the movement over and over again. We want to make sure when we do that hinge, though, if we're looking at ourselves in the mirror, we want to make sure that we have a nice neutral spine, right? So there's no rounding, there's no excessive kind of pooching of the back that way. It's nice and neutral, just like when we do our planks, when we do our push-ups. So, and if you don't feel that, typically those with low back issues, you'll kind of feel yourself rounding or losing that tension, and that's something we can certainly work on when we get to class next week when we troubleshoot all these lifts. So, if you're not comfortable with it now, totally understandable, but please try the movement and at least get comfortable with it. Have a general knowledge or a general idea of what we're doing with that. Okay? The next movement we're gonna do is just a forward lunge. So in our warm-ups and then as a part of our squat workout, on Monday there's lunge variations. On Monday we did the reverse lunge where you're starting, kind of square and then lunging back. Today we're gonna do a forward lunge. It's the same movement, except we're gonna lunge forward and back to center as opposed to back and then back to center. So a forward lunge, chest up, lunge forward, keep that knee over the toe, and then just lunge back to wherever you were standing. When we push up off the ground, push up through that heel of that planted leg to bring yourself back up to standing. If you're using weights, dumbbells, you're holding that backpack, whatever you want to do, right? The movement's the exact same. Or if you have dumbbells, that's not comfortable for you, you can go a goblet hold. So you can just hold it like a cup in front of you, and you can do the movement that way as well. Okay? So that's the forward lunge, and we'll do that one for 3 sets of 10 on each leg. The final one we're going to do a squat. I'm going to challenge us though a little bit differently this time. We're going to do a squat just like we learned on Monday, but we're going to do a 3-second eccentric load. So eccentric means when we're doing the lowering part of the lift. So for this squat variation, we'll use weight just because we can. For this variation, right, squat stance, and then I'm going to do a long 3 count as I get into the hole of the squat. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and up. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and up, right? So nice, slow, and controlled. 3 seconds down into the hole or the bottom of that squat, and then just stand up nice and easy. Really working to control the movement, keep the chest up as we go into the descent there. And then lastly, we're going to do, for our abdominal movement today, we're going to do a reverse sit-up. So for this movement, you're going to need something to hold on to or something to kind of use as a counterbalance for you, okay? So what I'm going to do, go this way. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to be on my back in this position here. I'm going to keep my knees together and my feet are also going to be together. I'm going to have whatever I'm using as a counterbalance behind me, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take those knees up to my elbows, okay? So this is an absolutely terrible idea, but I'm going to use this barbell as a counterbalance. And we're just going to bring knees to elbows. Nice, slow, and controlled. So when I go down, I don't want to just flop my low back onto the floor. It should be kind of like I'm peeling my back up and off of the surface that I'm laying on, right? So it's nice, slow, and controlled. Knees to elbows. Nice and controlled back down. So I'm not slamming down. It's just nice, slow, and controlled as I kind of get that movement going. And you can grab onto a dumbbell, you can grab onto your bed frame, you can grab onto a door, whatever you have that can be a nice solid piece for you to work against. But again, elbows to knees, and we're going to do those for 3 sets of 10 to finish your workout. So that concludes all the videos for this week. We will see you guys next week in class where we'll go over this stuff. We're going to troubleshoot it. If you have any questions in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out via email and we'll make sure to get your questions answered. But look forward to seeing you all in class. Thanks.